Hello, everyone. We're so happy to have you here with us on the Stronger Marriage webinar produced by the Utah Marriage Commission, hosted by Utah State University. I'm Alexis Alcott, the UMC Interim Program Coordinator. We're excited to have you join us today as we celebrate 25 years of marriage celebrations in 2023. A part of that celebration is our webinar series, and we're so excited to have Tiffany Roe here with us today to be talking about infertility. Tiffany Roe is a clinical mental health counselor, CEO, and founder of Mindful Counseling, entrepreneur, award-winning psychology teacher, and speaker on a mission to make therapy cool, as you can see from her sign. She's known as the OG-IG therapist and is out to change the mental health game. Tiffany is revolutionizing modern mental health by sharing her therapy thoughts on Instagram, offering courses on tiffanyroe.com, and spreading education and real psychological tools on the Therapy Thoughts podcast. You can expect no BS empowering help from this queen of mental health. She will help you make peace with your mind, body, and food, and in her words, feel, deal, and heal. Today, Tiffany will be exploring infertility and how to receive education and cope with your infertility experience. She will also discuss how to set boundaries with loved ones while dealing with infertility, learn self-care during infertility, learn body and somatic tools to use during infertility, and give specific resources and community suggestions to help you in your specific situation. If you have any questions, please ask them by entering your questions to the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. The chat will be turned off, so this is the best place to ask Tiffany your questions. We'll have a 15-minute Q&A at the end of their presentation, so write down your questions and save them for the end. If you have joined us for the CEU credit, make sure to stay on to the end of the presentation. The survey needed for your credit will automatically loan out to the screen, and then you will receive an email from the Utah Marriage Commission with your certificate. You may also email the Utah Marriage Commission to receive your survey on this webinar. Once the survey is completed, you will obtain an email with your CEU credit certification. That email is marriagecommission@usu.edu. We'll now turn the time over to Tiffany for her presentation.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I love speaking at the Utah Marriage Commission. This is my second time in the webinar series. I'm stoked to be here. Save all your burning questions, drop them in that chat. We're about to dive deep into infertility. This is a passion point for me. I have both personal lived experience with infertility as well as professional experience counseling folks. I have a course on infertility. This is my jam. I'm excited to dive into some of the things that I think are the most important parts of this. I go by Tiffany. My pronouns are she, her. Like in my introduction, I own a counseling clinic here in Utah. There's a location in Sugar House as well as Provo. It's called Mindful Counseling. And then I do a bunch of cool mental health stuff in my digital brand. I have courses and merch and all kinds of things. But if you're looking for a therapist, my practice is inclusive. We have training and awareness around all things infertility and impact with that. And so if you're needing resources, the websites are at the end of my presentation. Let's cruise. So a couple disclaimers. This isn't therapy. I'm a therapist, but we are not in a therapeutic relationship here. This is simply educational and make sure that you're getting support from your own medical team outside of this webinar. We have an agenda. We're going to hit all of these points today, give you some education and ideas to cope with infertility. I'm going to give you specific tools and skills and coping mechanisms because that is the #1 complaint I've heard in my 12 years as a therapist. People just want some freaking coping skills. So I'm going to give you some because this is a hard experience and you need some support. We're going to talk about boundaries. Boundaries with infertility. I'll give you a formula that I love. We'll talk about some self-care, some really specific body and somatic tools to help you during this infertility experience. I have a couple resources and community suggestions towards the end, and then some good tips for improving your relationship during infertility. We're going to dive deep. I hope this is the most robust 60 minutes of therapeutic support and education that you've ever seen. The intention here is to provide you with education and ideas for coping with infertility. So whether you've had repeated loss, whether you've had really no experience with losing something in the infertility world, if this is your first time, everyone's welcome. There's a spectrum when it comes to infertility. I want a resource that's just tools, support, skills, and coping mechanisms to help you navigate this. And I call that feeling, dealing, healing. Learning to navigate grief, loss, repeated frustrations, losing the vision of what our life would have been. There's so many unique situations, and infertility has a lot of commonalities between people, but also so many unique things. So no matter what yours is, my hope is that you're going to get some tools and support today that can be applied to your situation. We're going to feel, deal, heal today. Let's dive in. Number one, feel your feelings. And I know you want to punch me when I say feel your grief. I personally cannot think of a better word to describe infertility than hell. I lovingly refer to this whole process as hell. There is no way to accurately describe the frustration and pain and grief and suffering and losses associated with infertility. So I'm leading with something that sounds difficult, but is crucial. So stay with me. We have to feel our feelings. So this is an important permission slip. I don't care what you feel. It's okay to feel that. No matter how gnarly the feeling is, or scary or brutal or like socially unacceptable, it's okay to feel how you feel while in infertility. So I want you to put this on a sticky note. Feel my feelings. Get a face tattoo. Put it on your desktop. No matter what you're feeling, you have permission to feel that, and you can validate your experience. This is crucial. Everything else I'm going to talk about doesn't matter if you're beating yourself up during this process. How do you feel your feelings? I want to teach you a really core mental health skill. This is a diagram. You can see this like a bullseye or like a donut. And this is a way that we teach people how to feel feelings. Number one, before we break this down, you have to be okay getting uncomfortable. Feeling feelings goes against our survival mechanisms. We don't want to be in pain. We don't want to be uncomfortable. So we have to have a mindset shift that, oh, shoot, if I don't feel my feelings, what actually happens is they get worse. And it can snowball and manifest in physical problems, health problems, mental health disorders. So we want to have a mindset shift that no matter how hard or uncomfortable it is to feel the feelings that are part of infertility, that we say, hey, I deserve to feel this stuff. And we make peace with these emotions. So this diagram then gives us some guidance on how to do that. The middle, the donut center, the bullseye is called your primary emotion. It's the first thing that you feel. Let's say it's anger. BTW, I could go on a whole tangent on how anger is not a secondary emotion. So trust me, as a mental health professional, anger can just be anger. And when you're feeling infertility, dealing with infertility, you might just be angry and it's not about anything else. There's not some like secret emotion under that. But regardless of what the emotion is, anger is kind of a controversial primary emotion. Whatever you feel first, that's your primary emotion. That could be anything, okay? Let's say it's anger. That's the first thing you feel. Now, if you could just feel that, like, I'm mad. I'm so freaking mad I have this issue, that this is hard for me. I'm so mad that other people can just have intercourse and have a baby. Like, that's a valid emotion. If we could just feel that, it would be much easier to get through this process. But most people struggle with just feeling whatever it is that our primary emotion is. So the outside part of this diagram is called your secondary emotions. That's how we feel about the donut hole. That's how we feel about the bullseye. What feelings do you have about anger? Maybe you're ashamed of anger. You feel guilty for being angry. You're sad about being angry. And words that I use to catch my secondary emotions, my judgment about my real emotion, is I'm saying I shouldn't feel this. It's wrong to feel this, or it's bad to feel this. These are kind of clues like, oh, shoot, how I'm feeling is more complicated than I think. I'm probably resisting a primary emotion. This alone can save you a lot of pain and suffering for anyone in any circumstance, but particularly infertility, which is just an ongoing rough ride. So if we can get out of that secondary emotion and say, it's okay to feel whatever I'm feeling, it's okay to be pissed off. This is a crucial mental health skill, because every emotion, if we really, really feel it and accept it, has a 90-second lifespan. And if it's just like, I'm mad and I can do something to let that go and throw a fit, I'll talk about some specific ways to do that. The anger can pass instead of boiling in us and building into other things. So we want to start feeling our feelings. This is one way to do that. In order to avoid invalidating your emotions and saying, I shouldn't feel this, it's bad to feel this, it's wrong to feel this, I want you to catch and accept that primary emotion, that bullseye emotion. So watch out for the words shouldn't, wrong, or bad. That's a way to catch those and exit that judgmental cycle and come back to validating your primary emotion. My favorite validation hack, which means giving some credit and recognition to what you're feeling, come back to the emotion and just say, it's okay to feel this. That's the hack. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel grief. It's okay to feel depressed. Whatever it is that you're feeling, just being like, yeah, it's okay that I feel that. And we lean in and give ourselves permission to feel all the yucky, mean, hard stuff. You're not alone, but everyone I know who's gone through infertility struggles with just being okay, feeling like crap. But isn't that how you should feel? This isn't like a pretty fun process. So get your own back. Allow yourself to feel anything. So this would be an activity you can do on your own, draw your own little bullseye and look at the primary emotion that you could be having. And then what are the secondary emotions you're having about that? And instead come back to the primary emotion and say, it's okay to feel this. And if I were in the throes of infertility, I'd be drawing these circles in like my notes or taking notes in my journal and working through how I've complicated the emotional experience by judging it. So you could use this as a journaling activity and to start working through what you're feeling. Something that is a very good piggyback to this is practicing self-compassion. Self-compassion is simply giving yourself the same grace and credit and permission to be human that you would give someone you love. And most of us really suck at this. We hold ourselves to this perfect standard. We're supposed to be immortal and never make mistakes. What I want you to come into is a really big self-compassion energy. And here's some self-compassion hacks. No wonder I feel this. Using the word no wonder allows you to really slip into compassion and kindness for yourself and to validate why you're feeling that. So for infertility, no wonder I'm feeling so depressed. Everyone around me is seemingly not having this problem. I feel like something's wrong with me. No wonder I'm so sad. I always thought I'd have a baby easily. No wonder I'm pissed off. This is so much money. This isn't fair, right? No wonder I'm feeling X, Y, or Z. Another way to have self-compassion is to say, I'm feeling this because. I'm feeling this because I'm sick of giving myself shots. No wonder I'm so discouraged. I'm feeling this because the adoption fell through and this is costing me so much money. I'm feeling this because access to this kind of support is so brutal. See what I'm saying? Getting your own back, giving yourself compassion, recognizing what you're going through. This doesn't mean you like it. Doesn't mean you agree. It doesn't mean you want to stay stuck feeling how you're feeling, but it is saying, I have compassion for myself, just like you would for someone you love. One tool I love is called the self-compassion break, and it's 3 steps, and this is a good reset. So if you're having a funky moment or you're struggling, simply saying, gosh, I'm suffering. And I like to partner this with a little bit of self-touch. Why don't you try this with me? Hands on your cheeks, almost like you'd be kind of like holding a toddler's face when they're crying, like, I'm here for you. I love you. It's okay, baby girl. Do that to yourself. Gosh, I'm suffering. And you want to find words that make sense for you. So whether that's I'm suffering, I'm having a hard time, this is a crap show, this is really, really rough, like acknowledging I'm suffering, I'm going through infertility stuff. This is so brutal. And then you can move your hands to somewhere else. I like to go behind my neck, almost like I'm holding myself up with like a lazy boy recliner, and say this, everyone suffers, I'm not alone. And again, find your own kind of words. So maybe it's like, all humans suffer. I'm not broken because this is just part of humanity. It's not just me. And then the third step, I like to put my hands on my heart. May I be kind to myself. This is the essence of self-compassion. You could say, may I get my own back? May I be cool to myself? May I give myself a little bit of grace? I can cut myself some slack and see, no wonder. The self-compassion will help you through the valleys and hills of infertility. And again, these skills aren't unique to infertility. This could be a webinar on just like a healthy marriage or relationships or self-love. The good news about this kind of stuff is that it's useful for a lot of different situations, but particularly something as challenging as infertility. Activity number 2 I want you to think about is make a burn journal. Oh my gosh, this is so important. And I'm going to tell you why. I came up with this idea going through my own infertility and being like, gosh, the stuff I think about and the way I feel is pretty gnarly. I'm a horrible person. I felt so horrible. A thought I had all the time when I was in the throes of infertility was I hated pregnant people. Legit hated pregnant people. I understand that that's not socially acceptable, and that's not something I would ever want to say out loud, but I'm telling you, I had to create a burn journal where I could have uncensored space to share how I really feel, which was a lot of rage and a lot of resentment and a lot of pain and a lot of grief and a lot of anger. So I'm telling you, no matter what you've thought, doesn't make you a bad person. There's no shame in the infertility game. This is unhuman, what we're supposed to deal with. So I'm like, write it out. Don't censor yourself. Say all the horrible things. Get it out there. Write down everything you think and feel and give it space. The most scary emotions, the things that make you feel like you're not even yourself. And are you okay? And this is your grief journal. And when I say burn journal, what I mean is you can get rid of it. You can type it and delete it. You can literally light it on fire and burn and get rid of the evidence. You can flush it down the toilet. It's uncensored. It's your safe space. And when you're ready, you can look at what you've written and feel those feelings and work through them. This is really useful instead of judging yourself. Like I felt like a horrible person for thinking that. But when I got it out and was able to reflect on it later, it's like the compassion. No wonder I felt that way. I was reeling. I live in Utah County. Everyone's pregnant all the time. It was so painful. I would attend church ceremonies and there were babies being blessed every week. It was so gnarly. No wonder I hated everyone. So it gives you a space to be honest and to feel the gnarly grief that is infertility without judgment and shame, and hopefully help you process and move through that. And I promise, I've told hundreds of people to do this. You're not alone. Validate that and then get rid of it. You don't have to keep that energy or believe it or assume that that's who you are. Your feelings don't define you. And your grief doesn't define you. But if you can't give space for like the really hardships of infertility, that's not fair. You deserve to take time to feel what you're feeling. Take a moment. How's this feel? Feel your bum on your chair, settle in, feel your feet on the floor. Maybe put your hand on your heart. We'll just take a mindful moment. Take a deep breath in and out. Just remind yourself you have your own back. And whatever feelings are coming up right now, that's okay. Whether that's about you or me or someone else, just like letting yourself feel what you feel and giving it some space. Wherever you're at's okay. Another tool I recommend is writing. We're talking about writing, and beyond a burn journal, I want you to think about writing as a tool to help you get through this. Write a letter. Something very specific I suggest during infertility is write a letter to the anticipated family, the child you wish you had had, the kid you thought you could adopt, the baby that would have come to you, the surrogate you wish you would have had. Anything. It could be the family you had lost, the baby you had miscarried, the ectopic pregnancy that you had. Writing a letter in the form of like grief and trying to address something that was never there. The dream of your future family, a lost child, writing a letter to a potential child, or yourself as a younger version of you, yourself as an older version of you, with or without children. Writing a letter to different versions of yourself, different versions of people who could have been or were, can be very therapeutic. This is deep grief work. Write your feelings, say goodbye, grieve, write it out. I do this often with people who have miscarriages and writing letters to the child or children that they lost. If you weren't pregnant, if you didn't even have a chemical pregnancy, if you've never had that, it's still valid to grieve something that never existed. Grief isn't about just death. Grief is about loss, and that can include the loss of a future that you thought you would have. So write yourself a letter, take time to do that. And this can be a really heavy process. So I suggest doing it with a therapist in your corner. And as we keep cruising through infertility suggestions, expectations versus reality. As we look at grieving the potential family we wanted, have we looked at that expectation and beliefs and assumptions of what we thought our life would be? What was your expected family vision? Growing up, did you believe your life would look a certain way? What did your future self look like? What did you envision yourself being? What did your family look like? Did you expect a traditional family? What was your age, your background, your sexual orientation? What all played into a vision that is not reality? And you can write that down and give yourself space to process that, to validate that, to accept your current reality, mourn if you need to mourn, grieve if you need to grieve, and validate yourself during that process. Many, maybe even most of us do not have the life structure we assumed we would have. And we were all kind of fed this social clock. Like we anticipated X would happen when, and this would happen at this point, and this would happen at this point, and here's how I would be and feel, and just kind of an assumption, because culturally we're given this timeline. We call it a social clock of what you do at certain times in your life. And it's okay for you to write down what you expected versus what is, and to do the work between those expectations and what is your reality. Here's another activity I love giving people. I call it RRAs, resentments, regrets, and appreciations. And this is something that you can journal through. Resentments, take time to write out all your resentments. An example I put in the presentation is, I resent the OBGs for ignoring my symptoms. I resent this policy, whatever it may be. Think of people you resent, places you resent, institutions, systems. Your resentments are valid, and it's important to acknowledge this stuff, because if we just hold resentment, we stay in a place of blame, victimization, no power, and we just can get in a really funky spot. So I say step one, write that all out. Then I would say write down your regrets, timing of your family, regrets of delaying relationships. Watch out for shame here. It's just more of honesty. I was a very adamant 20-something. I was a professor at Utah Valley University in my late 20s, advocating for delaying childbearing. And I would bring out the research and I'd be like, blah, 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 here's why. And then I wanted to have kids in my 30s. And I have regrets about not trying sooner, because maybe I could have had a family. Doesn't mean I'm bad. Doesn't mean I did it wrong. Doesn't mean it should have been anything else. But the feeling of regret is valid. And giving yourself space to write that with compassion and without shame is beautiful. Give that space. And then I suggest writing down appreciations. And this is crucial for the relationship piece of infertility. What do you appreciate about the infertility process? What do you appreciate about your partner? What do you appreciate about the doctors or the medical teams or the experiences? I don't want this to turn into toxic positivity. That's not what we're freaking doing. But is there room for finding peace or making meaning of things? Like, hey, I appreciate that I've had my partner through my back, through my partner having my back through this. Can you have appreciation for people and practices and events? That person who brought you a meal, that person who sent you a text, that person who said, I don't know what to say, but I care. And if that's hard, that's okay. And I'm never going to say, I appreciate infertility. I'm glad I had that. It made me who I am. No, that's some BS. I don't believe in blaming people who suffer traumatic experiences or being grateful for hard things. If you get there, cool. But look at appreciation for outside of just I'm grateful for infertility. You don't have to be grateful for infertility, but can you appreciate pieces of this experience and start to find ways to grow from it, to find growth from the trauma? Art's another tool that I suggest. This is an ongoing grief process, and art's a way to express grief, to express loss, to express the ups and downs of infertility. And you don't have to be good at art. Who knows what that means? Some of us have these ideas that like you have to be an artist or have very like literal artistic skills of making things look a certain way. So here's permission to get out of your head and to know this is therapeutic. And sometimes talking about things isn't enough. And when we want to build a family and we have this unmet need and this vision hasn't been achieved, can we express that through art? So maybe you can paint something, use clay, color, create collages, make a friendship bracelet, dress up in clothing or use clothing in a way that feels supportive or affirming, dance, music, writing, stories. You don't have to have criticism around this. This could be just scribbling or using like one of those adult coloring books. Expressing yourself through any artistic creative expression is valid and can be a nice way to tap into some of your feelings that you may not be tapping into through your thoughts or through therapy, for example. I also suggest having a grieving time, making time for grief. Again, I don't blame you if you don't want to do that, but I suggest making this a literal practice, maybe every night at 7 p.m. or every night at what time, or every morning you say, I block out X amount of time, whether it's 5 minutes or 30 minutes, or maybe Sundays every week, you make some time where you can do something that feels like you're mourning and actively grieving. You can wear all black if that helps you channel this, listen to music that channels grief, look at pictures, look at different reports or things that support you, read your journal, schedule out time to really sit with this. Maybe you're looking at like a scrapbook or looking at memories or talking to someone about your grief. Intentionally doing this instead of letting your grief be reactionary to every time you're just bummed out. It's saying, hey, I'm going to make time to channel this and feel this. I'm going to meditate on it. I'm going to breathe on it. I'm going to use a mantra and focus and feel. Give space to grief. And you could do this in therapy, through journaling, through crying, or even just a time to sit down and talk to a partner. And if this is hard to do, enroll support in this. Like, hey, this is a therapy tool that might help me get ahead of the grief and not get bogged down. You can schedule it and make it a priority. Oh, this is one of my favorite. Because I did this and it made such a difference for me. And I've suggested clients do it for years now. Throw a tantrum. And I want you to envision what that might look like. Can you even allow yourself to mentally visualize throwing a tantrum and consider the possibility of doing that in real life for real? And what would that look like for you? I suggest going outside, screaming, stomping, yelling, crying, all the primal rage and pain, and let it out. Go outside, rip up the grass, go outside and yell, get a pillow or go in your car and just weep and open your mouth and breathe deep and let your body like release that pain. Having an outlet can help grief flow. Nowadays, they have all those rage rooms. You can do this as structured or unstructured as you want, but thinking about the way that our society just doesn't support feeling emotion and how there's a lot of emotions in infertility and in the relationship complexities around infertility. And what would be a way for me to express that and to get my body involved? We can't just talk about this and say, I'm sad. We have to give space for sadness. You have to feel feelings. You can't just talk about feelings. Feelings have to be felt. Otherwise, they get stuck in our body. Throwing a tantrum is a great way to access the sadness and the grief and the pain. Boundaries. Oh, this is a relationship tip and consideration. Boundaries are a part of this. Here's the 3-step formula I use for boundaries. Step 1, thanks for asking, or thanks for suggesting, thanks for the idea, gratitude. Thanks so much. Thanks for caring. Thanks for caring about my fertility. Thanks for caring about my well-being. Step 2, here's my limit or boundary. You set a limit, something you're not comfortable with. I don't want to talk about that in this setting. I'm not ready to address that. I'm not looking for advice from people on this. I'm not willing to change my diet, and I'm not open to feedback about my body size or what I put in my body related to infertility. See what I'm saying? Limit, boundary. Then number 3, you enforce the relationship value. Our friendship means so much to me. You're still really important to me. I'll let you know if I ever want to talk about this. I love you. I want to stay close to you. I'm glad we can talk about boundaries. So, hey, I'm going to set a boundary with you, but you're still important to me. So this 3-step process, you can use that with anything, not just infertility. for sure in relationships and partnerships with extended family, with bosses. Boundaries are boundaries no matter the container they're set in. You have to teach people in life what you need during your journey. Most people don't experience infertility, but a great deal of us do, right? 1 in 8 couples. So what we need, we have to set. And what I need during infertility might be different than what you need. So think of boundaries as a way to enable relationships, because otherwise everyone's going to just piss you off and hurt your feelings. So we're coming into this with boundaries allow us to stay close with people when we're going through something that they may not understand. So they enable relationships, and they're about protecting you, not controlling others. Most of the time people have good intentions, but impact, they don't understand the impact they may have on you with their requests or their suggestions or whatever. So you're setting boundaries to help the relationship. So there's some things you could say like, hey, if you're going to send me an announcement, ask me first. I think we've all been there where we find out someone close to us is pregnant and we would have appreciated knowing directly or being told, having some sacredness or thoughtfulness around that. I'd like if you ask me about my experience, maybe instead of gossiping or telling someone else or avoiding you, you could say, I'd prefer if you didn't ask me about my experience. You could say, thank you, I won't be attending this baby shower. It's okay if you're like, this type of event is harmful to me at this point, but I love you. I appreciate this relationship. Thanks for being patient with me. I'm doing my best to navigate this. Boundaries don't have to be weird. We don't have to be like a jerk about it, or it doesn't have to be strange. Boundaries should be normal and celebrated and asked about. Hey, we are dealing with infertility. Can we have open discussions about healthy boundaries and what might make this a lot harder for us versus what wouldn't? I hope we can normalize that and that you can feel empowered to ask for what you need. Another thing you can do is write down your boundaries, write down your needs, and write down permission slips. A lot of us don't feel comfortable with this kind of stuff because we have this people pleaser society and self-sacrificing society. And I suggest you write down your boundaries, all of them: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, sexual boundaries. I don't want to talk about my infertility with my friends. I have a boundary. I don't want diet suggestions that people think will cure my infertility. I remember one of my best friends hit me up and was like, oh, you need to just start taking garlic. And I was like, oh, shoot. It's just garlic. This whole time, that's all I needed was a little bit of garlic to fix this. Set your boundaries, identify them. They might be different than mine. Maybe you would appreciate a suggestion like that. For me, I remember it. I don't know how many years ago that was. It bothered me. Write down all your boundaries, and that's okay. Get clear on them, because then you know when someone crosses them that it's okay to say, ooh, ouch, that hurts. Let's fix this. Write down all your needs. What are your needs in relationships? Here's some ideas there. And then permission slips. What permission slips can you give yourself? I have permission to say no to family gatherings right now. I have permission to not attend the ceremony. I have permission to say I cannot accept any invites to this kind of thing, whatever it is. Write yourself permission slips. Here's another tip. Sharing resources can be a great way to elicit support from your support group. Again, most people don't know what it's like to go through this. People in our society are awkward around grief. No one knows what to say. Everyone just wants to make everyone feel better. So you can share resources, talking about your boundaries, talking about your needs, sharing education. I have a free download on my website, which is tiffanyroe.com. And I'll show you that at the end of the presentation. But there's 20 things to say to someone dealing with infertility and 20 things not to say to someone. And like, that's the kind of thing like, hey, we're starting our infertility journey, or we're in the throes of this. Here's some things from a professional that you can look at, and let me know if you have any questions. Let's open up dialogue about this. That's one way to have resources. Get support. These are some of the community resources I promised. Online support groups. In-person support groups, talking to other people who have infertility or have been through infertility, creating open dialogue with family and friends. Resolve.org, if you haven't explored their resources, that's a great hub for infertility. And in addition to that, maybe there's a specific reason you're dealing with infertility. Maybe you have endometriosis, for example, or maybe you're you're recently discovering like you have a deficiency in some way or you have a medical condition, dive into specific areas that relate to you. So Resolve is kind of an infertility hub, but maybe you need to go deeper into endometriosis support groups or stuff like that. That's just an example. And I love Utah Infertility Resource Center here in Utah. They have a lot of this support as well. Having people who can just understand you and validate you is going to move the needle for helping you feel better. It can be such an isolating, scary experience, but it doesn't have to be. You can reach out. There's support out there. Somatic practices, body practices. The longer I've been a therapist, the more I know talking is not enough, especially with trauma. Our body holds on to trauma. If you've had a child and you have birth trauma, that stays in your body. If you've had any type of experiences and we're not releasing those emotions, it gets stored in our body. And so we want to use our body to help us heal and deal with our emotions. So some physical ways to release emotion in your body. We also call these somatic practices, literally stomping your feet. And maybe that's a whole body. Letting energy out, connecting to the earth, stomping, popping bubble wrap, drumming, rhythmic drumming and sound and vibration can be very healing. Trauma sensitive yoga. Yoga combines so many beautiful, beneficial things: the breath, the meditation, the mindfulness, the movement, the sitting in discomfort, the breathing through it. It's a great body practice to help with trauma and movement. Somatic movement therapy or somatic experiencing are different modalities that can help. You're using your body and paying attention to sensations in your body, your posture, how you feel when you talk about certain things. So even right now, take kind of a moment and notice how you feel in your body, what sensations are in your body as we're almost getting to the end of this presentation, talking about infertility, talking about the impact and what to do. Get a pulse. How's it feel? How's your breath? Is it shallow? Is it deep? Is it fast? Is it slow? Is there tension anywhere? Are you feeling warm? Are you feeling cold? Just checking in with sensations in your body is the beginning of a lot of body practices, awareness, mindfulness. What are you experiencing? Getting curious about those sensations, connecting to them. And no matter what you're feeling right now, no matter what sensations you have in your body, you can take a deep breath. Just like notice how it changes. Notice how you want to move. We're in our heads so much, and getting down into our bodies is crucial as we work through something as heavy as relationships, as infertility, as marriage, as partnerships. Our body is our ally. And it's crucial as we do this kind of work and do this kind of healing and try to be as aligned as we can. Swaying, rocking. This is what we do with babies. Let's try to rock them and soothe them. A lot of the times when it comes to body practices, we want to get back to the basics of like, how did we soothe ourselves when we were little? How were we soothed or weren't we soothed? And finding ways to give ourselves that kind of soothing. So how I might utilize that is to think about the losses I've had, the loss of my family vision, think about infertility or any of the struggles you've had, and hold yourself and sway, rock, and give yourself that validation and affirmation, maybe kind of like stroke your arms and pat yourself and just see what comes up. Pounding the ground, dancing. Dancing is such a powerful somatic release, and it can be rage dancing, it can be pain dancing, it can be sensual dancing. There's so much sexual impact with infertility, and not losing your sexuality or your sensuality or the energy that you need to connect to through dance and movement. These are just a few ideas, but any ways that you can think to connect the mind and body will help you in this process and help you in your healing. And if a reflection point, something you can journal about, which method is your favorite in releasing emotion? How do you best release emotion through your body? And can you make like a reminder or kind of dog tag that? Like, I'm going to do that once a week. Maybe it's dance, or maybe you want to do some drumming. Maybe you want to go do karaoke, which I call therapy for therapeutic reasons. Is there something you can do to engage your body in some release that will help you, and make a commitment to do that? Couple more ways to heal before we answer questions. Start gathering your questions. We'll do a Q&A here in a moment. Get loud. Use your voice. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to be in shame. We can find meaning and purpose, not toxic positivity or trying to make it cute, but what's the meaning I can give this? Is there purpose? And we can find that through advocacy, social justice work, advocating online or in person, educating people about infertility, lobbying, going online, doing this in person, postpartum advocacy work, connecting to community resources that will help you find some meaning and purpose or pay it forward, volunteering, anything that makes you feel a sense of universal contribution. This could be a sense of spirituality for folks. Taking our pain and finding growth or voice matters. Self-care during infertility is so crucial. Self-care, I like to really keep it simple. It's simply knowing and meeting your needs. Here's a brief list of some human needs. So when it comes to self-care, I'm not just talking about getting a facial. That can be self-care. Pampering or luxury or, a break and relaxation is meeting a need, but it is not the only need or the only way to do self-care. So we all have physical safety needs. Are you meeting that need? That's self-care. I need a sense of safety, especially when you don't feel safe in your body. Friendship, attention, listening, respect, loyalty, spirituality, belonging, intimacy, love, fun, trust, progression, validation, being seen, being heard, being accepted, contribution. You go on and on. If you can identify your needs, then you can identify which ones aren't being met and how to meet them. And when there's infertility, so much is just focused on family building. We want to pay attention to other needs that make you a human as well. So what areas might be lacking? Physical, emotional, spiritual. What needs are being unmet and how can you focus on this? And here's my suggestion, just pick one. None of us are perfectly meeting all of our needs all the time. So start with one need for 1 week. One need, 1 week. Maybe you need more fun, lightness, laughter. Don't overwhelm yourself. I'm just going to focus every day this week on meeting my need for laughter. If that's just sending a funny meme to someone, that counts. Nurturing a need is just a process. And then next week, pick a new need. And this is how we do self-care. It's meeting needs. It's about building an attuned, aligned, attentive, loving relationship with yourself. It's a big picture. And of course, relationships, this will kind of be our last piece before we do a Q&A. Consider that your partner is going to grieve differently than you. And here's some tips on how to maintain your relationship during the journey. Watch out on expectations. You might expect your partner to do this exactly the same as you, grieve the same as you, experience the same as you. So encouraging and respecting different experiences is a good expectation. Ask your partner how you can help them deal with this. Let's keep it open dialogue. How will you feel loved and supported by me? I want to help you thrive physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. What can I do to help you thrive in this arena? Find ways to connect and support each other outside of infertility. I think a really gnarly facet of this in reality is it just becomes so consuming. It's your identity. It's everything. It affects every area of your life. And can we find ways to still nurture and build connection in the relationship outside of infertility? So an activity would be ask your partner how you can help them this week. Schedule a time to go on a date, do something that's fun or creative, schedule a time to grieve together, making small attempts. We don't have to redo everything, but just checking in. Couple last tips on improving your relationship. If I had to kind of say things that move the needle for helping the relationship thrive, validation. We don't want platitudes. We don't want to try to make people feel better. Validating how your partner feels. Responding instead of reacting. Emotions can be high during infertility, and it's easy to just react and be so overwhelmed and angry and hurt. But taking time to just respond, the pause. Something happens, you're feeling things, and you have a moment to pause and decide how you're going to respond instead of just knee-jerk reacting. Breathing together. An activity I love that I just showed today on my Instagram is you put your hand on your partner's heart, they put their hand on your heart, and you breathe together. And you can hum or and just be with each other. Crying together. Nurturing each other's love languages. Do we know what those are? Do we know how our partner feels love? I'm making an effort to nurture that. Say, really validating things, a validation hack. You feel this because you feel so sad and self-defeated because our pregnancy test was negative. Validating them instead of saying, well, at least we have next month. We want to just be with them and say, yeah, no wonder you feel the way you feel. Replace defensiveness with reflection. If you're getting defensive, take a moment to say, just reflect and listen. I hear you saying, get out of your own head and be present. Call a timeout if you need a timeout. If you're not calm or grounded, saying, let's talk about this when we're calm. I'll be back in an hour. Say, no wonder you feel that way, giving them compassion and validation. Couples therapy is cool for everyone. I recommend it. Make time for check-ins, maybe once a week or daily. How are you doing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? I'm here for you. And then the last tip for relationship is a positive bias. This is where we see why our partner's traits work for us. We start to write off flaws and build tolerance for the things that are different in each other. And it leads to stronger happiness and contentment in relationships when we start to advocate and have positivity towards our partners. This is my last slide, and we're going to open up for questions. So drop those in the Q&A. Proceed with cautious optimism. This is something my endocrinologist said to me once. And I love that. We want to be optimistic, but we want to be cautious when it comes to this type of family building. It's easy to get sucked into depression. Fight to stay optimistic and realistic. Acknowledge that there's barriers while also being committed to self-care and meeting your needs and setting boundaries. A couple things while some questions are coming in. I have an infertility course. With the slides you saw today, most of them are drawn from that, but you get a full lecture on the course as well as my podcast and Q&A with some experts. It's 50% off. You can get that now at tiffanyroe.com. I have openings in my clinic. It's mindful counseling. We're in Provo and Salt Lake, and you can see therapists now. It has been my commitment to make therapy open and available without those 6-month wait lists. And so if you're in Utah here, Salt Lake or Provo, we got you. And then there's not one in front of me, but I have a 52 card coping skills deck that just released in November, and it's really popular. People love it. Each card you pull has a different coping skill. And I wish I would have had that during infertility, because you sometimes can't think. And in the moment, you need some reminders. So that's also available on tiffanyroe.com. So let's open up some questions.
Perfect. So one person started off just saying they wanted to bring awareness to men's experience in infertility as well. And they were wondering if you have any different insights or even different research that kind of goes in experiencing infertility with men.
Yeah. So in my personal life, me and my partner, my husband, we have dual factor infertility. So I bring things to the table as well as he does. And it's been really tricky for him to find the support I have. He wasn't able to find a men's only support group like I could, or get all the information. And it seems like there was a lot more shame in his experience than there was in mine. And I thought that was a really interesting kind of social commentary on just men aren't allowed to have pain or struggles or be vulnerable about this kind of stuff. So I think if you are a man, or if you are someone who is marginalized where this field doesn't cater to you, one-on-one therapy would be a really great way to get that unique support, because it's going to take time for us to build kind of that awareness on a larger scale. And then look into online support groups. Is there a men's support group in your local city? Is there something through one of the larger cities? Is there a Resolve group or course or direction that you can go to. If it's not in person, there's got to be resources online that can cater to you and what you're looking for. And then a lot of the stuff I shared today can be applied to both, any gender identity when it comes down to feelings and skills. But sometimes if you just want to be in the room with other men, you're going to have to search that. I would start at resolve.org.
Perfect. Thank you. Another person has a best friend who's dealing with infertility right now, and their other best friend just had a baby who is trying, and it was an accident baby as well. So they're wondering how to really navigate the tension between their two best friends.
Oof. Yeah, that makes me go, oof. I think it's the best thing is, number one, we can't control anyone's emotions. So even if I give you a perfect script and plan, we're dealing with humans. And this is messy. Someone got pregnant and they weren't planning on it, or maybe don't even want to be pregnant. The other person is going through infertility and wants it more than anything. And can we hold space to be like, this is difficult for both people? And to even just send out the text to the person who's going through infertility, like, I don't know how to talk to you about this, but I'm worried about you. I see you. I know our friend's pregnant and that's triggering. I'm just here for you. And then to talk to the other friend, like, I know this is triggering and it's valid that you don't want to be pregnant right now, or this wasn't your intention and you feel guilty for feeling that way. I want to hold space for both of you. You can remain neutral and supportive. It doesn't have to be triangulated. Everyone's feelings are valid in this process. And if there has to be boundaries, like, hey, you can't complain about your pregnancy to me. I'm infertile. That's okay. And if the person who's pregnant needs to set boundaries with the person dealing with infertility, like, hey, I can't hear about these desires. We have to have boundaries right now, but we can still be friends in other ways. That's healthy. It's okay to have boundaries and limits and to validate people at different stages. That's just emotional maturity.
Perfect. Another person said, in couples therapy, how do you present these skills that you've shared? Do you find infertility works with couples therapy mostly, or physio ed?
I missed the last part of that, but I mean, yeah, in couples therapy, when I do couples therapy with an infertile couple, it's very much like this. And I'll hold the space for them to be like, we talked about some ideas for couples today, like validating. We'll practice doing that. And when one partner grieves different than the other partner, we process that together. And usually I'll create a container where it's like, let's practice reflecting and listening instead of getting defensive. Let's practice validating instead of trying to fix it. Let's grieve together. Let's breathe together. Let's talk about the stuff we don't want to talk about and not avoid it together. So usually just creating a container for the partners to talk and feel and get in their bodies and grieve and facilitate the discussions that are difficult to do on your own. And I usually suggest that you have individual therapy and couples therapy for everyone in partnerships, but especially with infertility. Both partners are bringing their own unique backgrounds into that. And I think it's a really sacred space that is worth the investment.
Another person is saying that you mentioned yoga, this trauma yoga. Can you provide more details on how to do it or resources?
Yeah, I'm not a certified yoga teacher, but if you can find a yoga studio in your city, many yoga studios offer trauma sensitive yoga. It will be specifically blocked out, like it's a trauma sensitive yoga class. And what that means is it's very much attendee guided. So they're not going to come touch you like they might, or like correct you in your postures in like a normal yoga class. And positions and postures that you take are respecting what might be triggering in trauma. It's a lot slower. We try to avoid positions that make you feel like prone or vulnerable. There's a lot more processing and permission to kind of do whatever you want. So it's a container that is aware that trauma is stored in the body, and body work like this might be triggering. And so it's creating as much safety as it can for people who are going through trauma or who have gone through trauma. That's what trauma informed or trauma sensitive yoga might be about. So I would either YouTube, Google trauma sensitive yoga classes, or look for a trauma sensitive or trauma informed yoga class in a city studio near you.
Awesome. That's a great resource. Another person is curious about if you know how experiencing infertility may impact attachment style within relationships with your partner and with their baby.
Yeah. So infertility, I like to conceptualize it as a traumatizing event, a traumatizing experience. And anytime we get into trauma, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, we have a dysregulated nervous system, our attachment styles are called upon. So if you have an anxious attachment style and now you're going through infertility, you might be more prone to seek your partner, feel more anxious, feel more desperate for love and approval. If you're avoidant, your sense of independence may feel threatened during the infertility process, and you may want to retreat more and feel unsafe. Remember, with any attachment style, the core wound or the core fear is abandonment, unworthiness. So how we respond or how that comes out is unique, but we can always come down to that deeper, vulnerable place of we're both afraid of getting hurt. We're both afraid of being abandoned or being unlovable or being unworthy. And that could be triggered and stirred up by the infertility experience. And then how would that affect the baby? The way that we relate in relationship absolutely affects our children and our posterity. If they're experiencing our reactivity, if we're resisting connection to them, if we are overly anxious and helicoptering them, that can affect how they develop as well. So what I like to say with all of this, the best thing you can do with attachment is work on awareness, noticing your patterns. Am I drawn to avoiding or pursuing? Okay, why? Start getting to get deeper into your patterns with how you attach to people. How do I become more conscious? How do I become more aware of my patterns? And as long as you're aware, then we can take steps from there to build more secure attachment styles. And I want everyone to take a deep breath. If we get to have kids, we're going to mess them up. And that's okay. And there's no perfect way to prepare or prevent insecure attachment, but you can work on yourself and your attachment style by being aware and starting to notice the patterns you have and how you attach to people and making conscious choices of what to do instead of just being reactive or being anxious or being avoidant. There's a lot more we could say about that, but that's a great question. Thank you.
And lastly, as we're just kind of finishing up, we only have a couple more minutes in this webinar, but some people are wondering if they can get access to these slides or where they can find more information about infertility and your view on it and resources available to them.
Yeah, these slides aren't publicly available, but this webinar is going to be available through the Utah Marriage Commission. This presentation is based off my infertility course, which has a workbook that looks similar to this. That's at tiffanyroe.com. That's 50% off. You can also catch me on my podcast. It's called Therapy Thoughts. And I've talked about infertility a couple times on the podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at Hey Tiffany Roe, where I talk about all kinds of topics that are hot topics, mental health related. And you can head over to my website or my counseling clinic if you want some more in-depth work.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany, and thank you everyone for joining. I definitely suggest that you go and look at her Instagram. I followed her and I really love a lot of the content that she produces. As well, I just want to thank everybody for coming onto this webinar and being a witness to this today, and just for being willing to share your questions and take the time out. Once again, if you are on here for the CEU credit, please stay until the webinar ends in just a couple minutes, and you'll be able to take that survey and get the email from the Utah Marriage Commission. You'll receive, after you finish that survey, you'll receive an email just from the Marriage Commission at usu.edu with your certification for it. And we just want to thank everybody for coming, and we hope you have a great night. Thanks, Tiffany. See you guys.